While my video series 80, we have learned the format of profit and loss account statement prescribed as per Schedule 3 of Companies Act 2013. We also learned the disclosures that are required to be made by the company while presenting the profit and loss account statement. Today, while my video series 81, let us learn the analysis of profit and loss account of a company. For this purpose, I have made an actual profit and loss account statement of a company covering 2 years. Let us learn the trick of analyzing a company's profit and loss account. The process is divided into 1. Understand a profit and loss account statement. 2. Reclassify the various items of the profit and loss account statement. 3. Do the analysis of the reclassified profit and loss account. 4. Understand the financial ratios which can be derived from profit and loss account. This is the profit and loss account statement of a company covering 2 years. That is for the period ending 31/3/2015 and for the period ending 31/3/16. Now the first part is income. That shows revenue from operations 7. For the purpose of better classification or better clarification, I have brought the annexures to the notes also along with the main item. So first let us go to the income part of it. It is sale of products, other operating revenues, less excise duty, total revenue from operations, and other income, then total revenue. Now if you go to the note number 7, it talks about the revenue from operations. They are sale of products. It also gives the breakup of 560.61 crores as domestic sales and export sales. This export sales data can be derived from the note itself, where there will be a separate heading called earning in foreign currency. Say it is given as on 31/3/15, the export of goods on FOB basis was 15.60 crores, and for the last year, that is 31/3/16, it was 2.5 crores. So there actually the income from sale of products is divided into two. One is the domestic sales and another one is export sales. Then comes the sale of scrap material, total is added, less excise duty. That is what gives you the total revenue from operations. Other income is not taken here because the item number 7 talks about the revenue from operations only. Let us now move on to the expenses side. There are 5 annexures or notes, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Each one of them we will see. Before that, you just see the expenses. First one is cost of materials consumed. Now let us go to the detail. There the note 8 talks about cost of materials consumed. That talks about raw materials opening stock. Then raw material purchases, domestic sources, that is the purchases from Indian market, and raw material purchases imported, then raw material closing stock. So the opening stock of raw material plus purchases minus closing stock of raw materials will give you cost of materials consumed. To find out what is the amount of purchases which are made from other countries, there is a separate item called CIF, value of raw material imported, which is 18.05 crore in 2015 and 4.49 crore in 2016. So we have explained the note number 8. Now let us go into the next item, changes in inventories of finished goods and stock in process. Please remember here, we have not taken the raw material because raw material opening stock and closing stocks are already accounted for in the cost of materials consumed. So let us now go to the item number 9. Now, if you look at the note, it talks about opening stock of stock in process, opening stock of finished goods. That is, at the beginning of the financial year, the opening stock of stock in process and finished goods, which were converted last financial year but not sold. So now there is a closing stock of also stock in process and finished goods. Now the difference between these two, if the closing stock is greater, it is negative. If the opening stock is more, it is plus. So in this case, the closing stocks are more. That is the reason why they are deducted in the profit and loss account statement. Now let us move on to the next item, employees benefit expenses. That is note number 10. We have learned that the employees benefit expense need to be bifurcated into salaries and wages and incentives, contribution to PF, contribution to gratuity, staff welfare expenses, etc. as per the Companies Act 2013. Here the bifurcation is given as wages, salaries and incentives, contribution to Provident Fund, contribution to gratuity fund, staff welfare expenses, and the total amount of expenses incurred for the period ending 31/3/15 was 12.07 crores, and for the period ending 31/3/16 was 11.21 crore. Now the stores and spares consumed, that figure is exactly, it is available in the profit and loss account statement, so there is no need to calculate. Suppose it is not given, it could be possible that they would have given the opening stock, purchases and closing stock. With the help of these three information, we will be able to compute stores and spares consumed. Now let us go into the finance cost. The finance cost totals about 34.24 crores for the period ending 31/3/15 and 33.58 crore for the period ending 31/3/16. The bifurcation is given here because all the costs are interest only. Suppose the cost also that there are other borrowing costs like LC charges or guarantee commission paid or any brokerage paid, etc., etc. That breakup need to be given. In this case, there is no breakup, and the total this one is interest only. Interest on term loan, interest on unsecured loan, interest on trade deposits, interest on working capital, etc. So that breakup is there. The next one is the depreciation, 8.94 crore and 9.70 crore, and other expenses is given in 12, which amounts to 18.38 crore and 16.60 crore. Let us see what is that. The other expenses consist of power and fuel, repairs on machinery, job work charges. That means for certain operations, company outsource the process to outsiders, and administrative expenses and selling expenses, and loss on sale of fixed assets, nothing is there. So the total comes to around 18.36 crores and 16.60 crores. Now let us move on to the profit and loss account statement analysis. The question arises when the company is preparing and presenting a profit and loss account statement as per the Companies Act 2013. Where is the need for the analysis by a banker? Let us understand this. The need to restructure the profit and loss account and balance sheet. We are now discussing the P&L account, so let us understand. why there is a need to restructure the P&L account by a banker. The companies present the profit and loss account and balance sheet as per the Companies Act 2013. The sequence in which they are presented, that is the various items are presented, and the assumptions based on which they are presented does not meet the requirement of a banker. Bankers use the profit and loss account and balance sheet to ascertain, one, the liquidity and the leveraging position of the company, sources of profit, debt servicing capacity, viability of the project, comparison of past performance with the projections, proper presentation of short and long-term sources and uses of fund, working capital finance, and diversion of funds, etc. So to facilitate proper analysis, bankers reclassify the profit and loss account and balance sheet using a different format. So today let us understand how this is done in case of a profit and loss account statement. The very purpose of analyzing a profit and loss account statement by reclassifying the various items therein is to understand whether there is an operating profit. When we talk about operating profit, let us understand one thing. A company could generate profit because of a contribution from income or profit from a non-operating activity. For a banker, the activity for which the finance is extended standalone should be viable. Suppose I am giving finance to a fan manufacturing unit. The activity standalone should generate adequate profit to service my debt. Debt in the sense that it should be able to service my interest and installments, if any. So what we do in the profit and loss account statement analysis is we remove all income which are not related to the core activity or the main activity. So we find out the operating income, that is the income generated from the operation of the unit, that is the core activity. Similarly, we remove all expenses which are not related to the core activity or the main activity. And we find out what are the expenses which are related to the main activity, which let us call it as operating expenses. If the operating income is greater than the operating expense, naturally the company will make an operating profit. That is, there is a profit generation from its core activity. On the other hand, if the operating expenses are greater than the operating income, the net result will be a operating loss. See, normally a bank will be happy to extend credit facility in cases where there is an operating profit. That is the reason why the profit and loss account statement as prepared as per the Companies Act 2013 is restructured by banker in order to ascertain that there is an operating profit. Let us see how it is done using the same figures which we have taken earlier. First of all, the income from operations or revenue from operations. We are trying to find out only the operating income. That is equal to income from sale of products plus other operating income minus taxes and duties. When I say taxes, it doesn't include income tax. It may be the GST or excise duty or the sales tax, as the case may be. Now, there is an item from other operating income. Any income which is related to the main income is called other operating income. That is, when the main income is generated, the other operating income is also generated. For example, Let us think of a sugar industry. The sugar industry is set up to produce sugar. So for the sugar industry, income from sale of products is income from sale of sugar. But whenever they produce sugar, there is a byproduct generated which is called molasses. So whether the company wants it or not, whenever there is a production of sugar, the item molasses gets generated, and molasses gives you very good income, because molasses is used for production of IMFL, Indian made foreign liquor. So in this case, the income from sale of molasses will be other operating income. Say for example, there are similar industries, say for example, a machining industry, where the generation of scrap gives income, and any chemical industry where there is a main product and there is a byproduct. So the income from sale of the main product is income from sale of product, and income from sale of the byproduct is called other operating income. And then the taxes like excise duty, GST, sales tax, etc. are reduced to obtain the revenue from operations or income from operations. Now we know the income generated from the main activity. Now let us take the case of the earlier figures, where you will find out that the total revenue from operations decreased by 7.705%. Last year there was a growth of 13.35% in 2015 compared to 2014, but in 2016 there is a decline in the total revenue from operations. Likewise, each item the credit appraisal officer need to look into before taking a lending decision. So let us now move on to the next item. Now we are coming to what is called as an operating expenses. So operating expenses can further be divided into, one is the cost of production, second one is the cost of sales, third one is total cost of operations. So there are three things, namely the cost of production is equal to variable cost plus depreciation plus opening stock of semi-finished goods minus closing stock of semi-finished goods. Let us go into each one of the items. What is meant by variable cost? Variable cost means any expenditure which increases or decreases proportionally to the production is called a variable cost. Say for example, whenever the production increases, these cost goes up. Whenever the production decreases, these cost comes down. Say for example, raw material consumption, power cost, fuel cost, stores cost, spares cost, wages. Wages means, please understand that that is different from salary, because wages is paid to the laborers as a remuneration. So whenever the production increases, I need to employ more laborers, and naturally my wage cost will go up. Similarly, when I produce more, I will be running the machinery for more time, power charges will go up. Similarly, repair cost on machinery. Whenever I increase the production, my machinery will be running for more time. Naturally, the repair cost on the machinery will go up. Similarly, if I am using any fuel, say for example a diesel which I am using, if I produce more, naturally the cost will go up. So that is what is called a variable cost. Depreciation, I need not explain. It is a provision for wear and tear. And the wear and tear increases when the production increases, and the wear and tear decreases when the production decreases. That is why depreciation is also added to the variable cost. Then you have got opening stock of semi-finished goods. That is, at the beginning of the financial year, say as on the 1st of April, what was the value of the opening stock of semi-finished goods? Semi-finished goods, you know, the item which has already moved away from raw material but has not become a finished goods. That is, the material which is undergoing the process of conversion from raw material to finished goods. That is what semi-finished goods. And naturally deduct the closing stock of semi-finished goods. that is the next year as on 31st of March, whatever may be the semi-finished goods that is available as on the last day of the financial year, its value has to be reduced. We get what is called as cost of production. Now here the main item is on the profit and loss account statement, the credit appraisal officer should be in a position to identify what are all the variable costs which need to pick up. That is how the need to have a thorough knowledge in the profit and loss account statement of analysis is required. The next item is cost of sales. It is nothing but cost of production which you have already calculated plus opening stock of finished goods, that is at the beginning of the year, that is on 1st of April, what was the value of the finished goods which I produced but I couldn't sell, that is to be added. And what is the closing stock of finished goods, that is as on the 31st of March of the current year, whatever may be the leftover the finished goods which I couldn't sell during the current year, that is to be deducted. Now, having understood the cost of production and the cost of sales, let us go and understand what is meant by total cost of operations. That is, what is my total expenses incurred for the main activity. Total cost of operations is equal to cost of sales plus administrative and selling expenses. Now, we have to find out the operating profit or loss before interest and taxes and operating profit and loss after interest. Now you see, look here, operating profit before or loss before interest and taxes is equal to total revenue from operations minus total cost of operations. Now when you look here, after calculating the operating profit or loss before interest and taxes, we have to find out the operating profit bar loss after interest. For this purpose, from the operating profit or loss before interest and taxes, deduct the interest, total interest, then you will get operating profit or loss after interest but before taxes. Then to the operating profit or loss after interest but before taxes, add the non-operating income and deduct the non-operating expenses to get the profit before taxes. And for the profit before taxes, you deduct the taxes to get the profit after taxes. Now let us understand what is meant by a non-operating income, a non-operating expenses. A non-operating income is an income which is not related to the core activity. It could be an interest received on fixed deposits, a dividend received on investments, a profit on sale of an investment, a profit on sale of a fixed assets. Anything like that could be a non-operating income which is not related to the main activity. Similarly, the non-operating expenses could be a loss on sale of a fixed assets. Could be one of the examples for non-operating expenses. So what we do is, we find out the revenue from operations or income from operations. Then you calculate the cost of production, that is equal to the variable cost of plus depreciation plus opening stock of the semi-finished goods minus closing stock of the semi-finished goods. Then you go to cost of sales, which is equal to cost of production plus opening stock of finished goods minus closing stock of finished goods. Once you get the total cost of sales, find out the total cost of operations, for which cost of sales plus administration and selling expenses will give you total cost of operations. Now we have the income from operations, we have the total cost of operations. The difference between the two will be either an operating profit or operating loss before interest and taxes. From that, you deduct the interest. What you get is the operating profit or operating loss after interest but before taxes. At that moment, you add the non-operating income, deduct the non-operating expenses. What you get is a profit before tax. From the PBT, deduct tax. What you get is a profit after tax. This is how the P&L account analysis is done. Now you look here. This is how the P&L account is prepared. It starts with the cost of materials consumed, wages, power and fuel, repair cost of machinery, job work charges, stores consumed. They are all variable costs. To this, depreciation is added, You get a subtotal. To this, add opening stock of SFG, deduct closing stock of SFG. What you get is a cost of production. Add the opening stock of finished goods, deduct closing stock of finished goods. You get cost of sales. Add admin and selling expenses. What you get is a total cost of operations. From the total revenue, that is 486.57, deduct 439.28, or from the 452.25, deduct 418.73. What you get is an operating profit before interest, which is 47.29 crore for the period ending 2015, and 33.52 crores for the period ending 31/3/16. From that, you deduct the interest. What you get is the operating profit after interest. In this case, during the period ending 31/3/15, the company made an operating profit after interest of 13.05 crores, whereas for the period ending 31/3/16, the company incurred a loss of 6 lakhs. Now, we have added the non-operating income, which is nothing but a interest on fixed deposit in this particular case, which was 1.19 crore in 31/3/15, which has decreased to 1.09 crore in 31/3/16. There are no non-operating expenses, so the profit before tax was 14.24, which was 1.03 in the case of 31/3/16. From there, the tax is deducted. Then you get what is called as a PAT of 671 and minus 1 crore 56 lakhs. This is how the analysis is done. Now let us understand how do we infer, what is the purpose of doing this analysis. Now if we look at the revenue from operation side, I can understand the growth in sales. As on the 31/3/15, the company's revenue from operations, the income generated from the main activity has grown by 13.35, whereas in the subsequent year, as on 31/3/16, there was a decline in income from operations. So as a credit appraisal officer, we need to understand the reasons why there was a decline, whether the same trend will continue or the trend will be reversed. These are the items which a credit appraisal officer need to understand from the company before putting up the proposal to the appropriate authority for sanction. If the branch is convinced as to the explanation given by the company, that justification, if the branch is satisfied, has to be put up in the proposal to the sanctioning authority. Now, when it comes to the comparison of expenses, because we need to understand a company which had generated profit, that is an operating profit before interest, has incurred a loss in the subsequent year. We need to compare the expenses to find out which expenses have increased substantially, making the company incur a loss. One reason we know is the decline in sales, but that alone could not be the reason for decline in sales. So for this purpose, some of the banks will continue to compare these expenses with the sales. At least the variable costs need to be compared with the sale value of production. That is, sale value of production is nothing but I add the closing stock of material which are lying there, for which I have incurred the expenditure during the current year, and I am reducing the opening stock for which I incurred the expenditure last year. So what we do is, to the net sales from products, we add the closing stock. When I say closing stock of semi-finished goods and the closing stock of finished goods, we have added here, and then we have added the opening stock. The reason for deducting the opening stock is, for this I incurred the various expenses last year. Then why should I include that? So I found out what is called as SVP, sale value of production. And I am comparing each of the variable cost as a percentage to the sale value of production. Now look at the cost of materials consumed. The 81.52% was the last year's expenditure, which had increased to 84.2%. In terms of 3%, you may think that 3% is a very nominal amount. No. Because remember that this company's income is 486.57 crores, and the next year it was 452.25 crores. 3% of that make a huge difference. Now here, the credit appraisal officer should think what could be the probable reason for the increase in the raw material cost. The one reason could be the input cost has increased, but the company is unable to pass it on to the increase to its buyers, maybe because the buyers are multinational companies. That could be one reason. The second reason could be there was a mismatch between the increase in input cost and the increase in selling price. That could be also one. So as a credit appraisal officer, we need to understand that. Now let us look at the wages. There is a marginal decline only from 1.89 to 1.83. This plays a very important role in case of labor intensive units. Please understand that if it is a unionized labor, there could be a wage revision, there could be a lump sum payment, there could be a... So we must be very careful in cases where the industry is a labor intensive one. Now look at the power and fuel as percentage to sale value production. It marginally increased from 1 to 1.21. There was no repair cost on the machinery, it was 0. And the job work charges also is very nominal. Stores consumed is also very nominal. So let us move on. That we have so far seen is there was a decline in sales. There was a substantial increase in the raw material cost. Now we look at the cost of production. The cost of production has increased by 2%, almost. See, 87.84%. It increased to 89.83%. Whereas in the case of the sale value of production, the marginal increase of 1% is seen. It is because there is an increased closing stock. When there is an increased closing stock, in particular finished goods, the credit appraisal officer should ascertain the reason for this increased finished goods. The reason being, is it that the product has become outdated? Is it that the company is not getting adequate orders? Is it that some of the buyers might have shifted to some other companies who are my competitors? So as a credit appraisal officer, each and every figure in the profit and loss account statement analysis should make him think the reason and the probabilities based on which it could happen. Now when you look at the admin and the selling expenses, there is a decline from 3.25 to 2.93. Is it that the company had removed some of the sales personnel? Is it that the company thought that there is no need for some sales personnel? Or is it that because the sales have decreased, I have reduced the sales expenses? These things we need to understand. And when you come to the interest cost, you will see that there is an increase. Though in terms of percentage, the increase is only 0.22 or 0.24%. Please understand, look at the figure. The interest cost was 34.24 crores during the period ending 31/3/15, but during the period 2016, it has increased to 33.58 crore. Now, when you look at the last one, the total operating expenses as percentage to SVP, which was 97.3% during the period ending 31/3/15, had increased to 31/3/16. It has increased to 99.97. That is the main reason for the company incurring a loss during the period ending 31/3/16, which is the fuel adding, the revenue from income also substantially reduced. Now look at here. With the help of the P&L, we can find out three things. One is, on an average, how many months of raw material the company keeps. On an average, how many months of semi-finished goods are lying in the factory. Similarly, on an average, how many months of the finished goods the company is holding. If you look at here, the raw material holding period had increased from 3.04 to 3.51. Though in terms of percentage, it is only 0.47%. 0.47%, we need to understand the reason for this hike. Similarly, there is no change in the semi-finished goods. Actually, the semi-finished goods talks about the processing time from raw material to finished goods. That is, the processing time was around 0.69 months with marginally increased to 0.71 months. So we need to bother much about it if there is a substantial increase or decrease. If there is a substantial increase, it could be a breakdown in some critical machinery, or if it is a substantial reduction, it could be possible that the process has improved. So similarly, you look at the finished goods holding has considerably increased from 1.95 months to 2.42 months. We need to ascertain the reason for this sudden increase, which in fact has reduced the cost of sales as a percentage to the sale value of production. Now, what are the information that we can come out from this P&L account analysis? One, we know the sale of products, income from sale of the products. We can find out the export sales. We can find the income from sale of the scrap materials, that is other operating income. We have the total operating income. Growth in operating income, we can understand 13.35% has come down to a negative of 7.05. We know the other income, there is 1.19 crore to 1.09 crores. We know the operating profit before interest. We know the depreciation. We know the earning before interest, depreciation, taxes and amortization. We can find out the interest on term loan. We can find out the total interest. We can find out the gross profit. We look at the gross profit, it was 63.24 crore. That has substantially come down to 47.15 crore. So we need to verify each and every expenses to find out what contributed this reduction in the gross profit. Again, if we look at the net profit, it was 6.71 crore. That has become a negative loss of 1.56 crore. Cash accrual, that is the net profit plus depreciation, was 15.65 crore. That has come down to 8.14 crore. When you go to the next, we can find out the profit after tax to net sales percentage. It's very, very nominal. That is 1.37%. Now the next year it has become negative. The gross profit to net sale, which was 13%, it declined to 10.40%. Interest as percentage to net sale, it has marginally increased from 7.03 to 7.42. Profit before tax as percentage to net sales, a terrific decline, that is on 2.92% to 0.22. Interest coverage ratio, that is how much is the EBITDA to pay the interest, that comes to 1.67%, which has declined to 1.31%. That is, its ability to service the debt is declining. Similarly, the debt service coverage ratio. The debt service coverage ratio talks about the repayment capacity in case of a term loan. The banks do calculate a ratio called debt service coverage ratio. The acceptable debt service coverage ratios on an average 2.5%, covering the entire repayment period. It is calculated like this: net profit plus depreciation plus interest on term loan on the numerator divided by interest on term loan plus repayment of the principal amount. The DSCR was 2.48, very comfortable during the period 2015, but has declined to 1.39% 1.39, which gives us an indication whether the company will be in a position to service the term debt. Now, the holding period of raw materials, semi-finished goods, finished goods, we have already found out, and we can find out the credit on an average, how many months of credit the company gives on sale, for which of course we may have to take one figure from the balance sheet, that is a trade debtors. That is around 3.63 months. It was giving its buyers. It has declined to 3.34 months. It could also be possible. It may be on account of the decline in sales, or some of the customers or the buyers moving to some other competitors. And similarly, the credit available on purchases, the company purchases the required raw material. To calculate this, of course, we need one figure from the balance sheet, which is the trade creditor or trade payables. So that was 4.05, and that has come down to 4%. My total working capital cycle, that is a cash to cash cycle or the operating cycle, which was 9.31, has increased to 9.98. It is a very, very dangerous signal. It talks about the difficulty in the project becoming a viable one. So, while this video series 81, we have learned the reclassification of various items of a company's profit and loss account. We also understood the analysis of the company's profit and loss account. Subscribe to this channel to receive intimation on my new videos. Press the like button and share the information with your friends. In my next video series 82, NPIers Learning Modules in Lending, I shall be discussing on balance sheet of a company and its analysis and computation of financial ratios from the bank's or the lender's point of view. Thank you all very, very much.